So glad to see you.
Good morning. Good morning and welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Providence, where we love beyond belief. And a special salute to mothers and SUFs today. We will begin our time together with some lovely music.
And we are going to open with a song that was actually used at rallies in the early 20th century women's rights movement. So enjoy March of the Women.
How cool is that to hear an original suffragette song that was written more than 100 years ago, but very possibly heard in this space more than 100 years ago, right? I mean, and the walls are thinking, oh my gosh, we haven't heard this in a very long time. Good morning. How wonderful to be together on this Mother's Day with a very special worship program planned in honor of the holiday. And the sun is collaborating with us a little bit, and our hearts, hopefully, are collaborating with the spirit of this holiday. This is our time for greeting, our opportunity to give a warm welcome to everyone that we know and treasure, everyone we think we may never have seen before. Welcome one and all. Let's make sure everyone feels how very glad we are to be together. And before we resume our places and seats, can we all turn around wherever we are and wave to the folks tuning in from afar on the count of three? A hearty good morning. 1, 2, 3. Good morning, everyone who's with us from beyond these walls. It is so good to be with you also. It is so good to be together in every way we possibly can. Sometimes I think, I say that every Sunday, maybe it's getting tired, maybe I should find a different way to say it, but I don't really want to. I really believe it is so good to be together in every way we possibly can. Can we join, please, in the words for our chalice lighting, printed in the order of service? This light burns also in our hearts, and it lights our way towards harmony, justice, and hope for all. And backed by popular demand, our invocation this morning is the poem, The Lanyard by Billy Collins. Yeah, see? Everybody's like, yeah. And if you don't know it, we hope you'll enjoy it. Billy Collins, contemporary white American poet. And this is probably one of his best-known poems. He's a former poet laureate of the United States and many other honors. The other day, I was ricocheting slowly off the blue walls of this room, moving as if underwater from typewriter to piano, from bookshelf to an envelope lying on the floor, where I found myself in the L section of the dictionary, and my eyes fell upon the word lanyard. No cookie nibbled by a French novelist could send me into the past more suddenly. a past where I sat at a workbench, at a camp, by a deep Adirondack lake, learning how to braid long, thin plastic strips into a lanyard, a gift for my mother. I had never seen anyone use a lanyard or wear one, if that's what you did with them. But that did not keep me from crossing strand over strand again and again until I had made a boxy red and white lanyard for my mother. She gave me life and milk from her breasts, and I gave her a lanyard. She nursed me in many a sick room, lifted spoons of medicine to my lips, and laid cold face cloths on my forehead, and then led me out into the airy light and taught me to walk and swim. And I, in turn, presented her with a lanyard. Here are thousands of meals, she said, and here is clothing and a good education, and here is your lanyard, I replied, which I made with a little help from a counselor. Here is a breathing body and a beating heart and strong legs and bones and teeth and two clear eyes to read the world, she whispered. And here, I said, is the lanyard that I made at camp. And here, I wish to say to her now, is a smaller gift, not the worn truth that you can never repay your mother, but the rueful admission that when she took that two-tone lanyard from my hand, I was as sure as a boy could be that this useless, worthless thing I wove out of boredom would be enough to make us even. Can we join in the words for our covenant? Did we say we were going to sing? I think we said we were going to sing. I think we're singing. In which case, shall we be rising also? We, the members of the First Unitarian Church of Providence, with respect for the worth and the dignity of each person with wonder at the light we know by many names, and with gratitude for our deep connection to each other and the larger web of existence. 1, 2, 3, 4. Provident to walk together in our search for truth, seeking the paths of wisdom, compassion, and justice, covenant to walk together in our search for truth, seeking the paths of wisdom, compassion, and justice, Yay. And now I want to invite Nova Quinn up. We are, as you know, a little behind on finishing the pledges for this year's commitment drive, and Nova is this week's First You Strong testimonial. Thank you so much for doing this on behalf of our church, Nova.
Hi, I'm Nova. I've never been up here before, so I'm a little nervous. I wrote this the day that Frank wasn't here to do his testimony. That day, Reverend Liz and Frank really inspired me to think that I, too, have a story behind why I give. why I want this UU community to continue thriving in Providence. I lived across the street in my late 20s, 296 Benefit, like directly across the street. And I loved the potlucks with the lovely Jim. I helped distribute food with the loaves and fishes at Crossroads, and I even tried out the Zen meditation nights. I joined the church with my now husband. We got married in our early 30s, not in this building, but with James presiding over the ceremony. And I had conversations, lots of conversations with little Lisa about pledging and why it made a difference to give anything and to think seriously about how much I could give. And at that time, I had what I thought was no money, but I pledged a few $100s that year. And I looked at the graphics. We had like a poster of all of the different people that had pledged to the church, no matter how small or how big. There was like little stickers or a mark or something. And I was surprised by how proud it made me to be one of those little stickers, those little marks in the visual. Then I had a kid, and I wasn't working much, and my husband went back to school and wasn't working, and so I really had no money. I disappeared from here because of the difficulties of early motherhood. And I'm going through perimenopause right now, so this is fun.
I would like to ask a round of applause for Nova, who is knocking herself out for us.
But Jen kept reaching out and asking if there's anything I needed and anything that this church could give. And I just felt so welcome and so connected, even being in a place where I felt like I was just floating away. Thank you all for sticking with me then and now. So I came back for the religious education program, and I realized I would gladly pay someone else to teach my kid about the principles of being a good, connected, informed human somewhere back there, while I quietly sat alone in a pew to breathe or think or pray or cry. I looked at my finances, and I realized I was actually in a place to pledge more. When I was growing up as an Orthodox Presbyterian, my parents gave 10% of their paychecks every week to the church. I grew up hearing my faith community say, God will use this money I give to provide for those who need it, and God will continue providing for me. And I watched it play out time and time again. And it was meaningful and a constant reminder of faith of everybody around me at the time. Anyway, I have more recently joined the Connections Committee. So if you've joined the church recently, I may have called you just to say hi and see if you need a connection or if there's any way that I can help to plug people in here. My family is all in on the fellowship weekend, and I love writing letters and postcards to politicians in the atrium. I feel real roots taking hold, and I feel connected here. I give my time and my effort and my money because of this community. I give because of this building. I give because of the organ. I give because of the choir. I give because of the RE program. I give because of the kitchen. I give because of Jen and Asa and Pedro and Jenny and all of the paid employees of the church who do important and wonderful things here. I give because, here we go again. I give because when I was at a critical part of my life for floating away, this church gave me a place to anchor, to breathe, to find peace, and to find myself. And when I was ready to join and to reach out and to help others. After already supporting me through so many milestones of my life, it continues to do so. And I'm so grateful. I'm pricelessly grateful. I'm also like $2,000 grateful, which, to be honest, is less than 10%. Please, please get your pledges in. Thank you.
This is going to be one of those days. Can't you feel it? A lot of spirit is in the room. Our opening hymn is From Age to Age. We are doing stanzas 1, 2, 3, number 105 in the gray hymnal. Can we rise, embody your spirit, and sing out?
Today's reading is an excerpt from the Declaration of Sentiments, written in July 1848 by Elizabeth Cady Stanton, who was an American writer, activist, and women's rights and abortionist leader.
No, abolitionist.
Abolitionist. I'm sorry. Abolitionist. That other word fits too. A declaration of sentiments. When, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one portion of the family of man to assume among the people of the earth a position different from that which they have hitherto occupied, but one to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes that impel them to such a course. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, It is the right of those who suffer from it to refuse allegiance to it and to insist upon the institution of a new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of the women under this government, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to demand the equal station to which they are entitled. The history of mankind is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations on the part of man toward woman, having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over her. To prove this, let the facts be submitted to a candid world.
time for joys and sorrows shared in the book at the back corner of the church. If you email the oath done too soon. From Dylan Baranski, a candle of joy for my mother Betsy, my favorite person in the world, whose love and caring has helped me in my darkest hours and whose profound wisdom and sometimes stern guidance has made me what I am today. From Chris and Lisa, what a joy it has been to be members here at First U. This is our last service here as we prepare to move to Minnesota in a few weeks. We will carry you all in our hearts always. Thank you for everything. From Isla and Lily, and I deeply apologize if I have mispronounced that name. Our sorrow is that we miss our mother, who died 5 years ago. From Mahima, sending hope to Subbu Vedam of Pennsylvania, who remains in ICE detention 7 months after his exoneration and release from 43 years of wrongful incarceration. Sending hope to all who are fighting to free him. Happy Mother's Day to all females, regardless if you have kids or not. Is a perspective rooted in the idea of femininity, nurturing nature that extends beyond biological parenting, with love, peace, and happiness. A candle of thanks for prayers answered and a family mending. A candle of joy that's recalling all of the strong women in my life, celebrating their progress and supporting their continued fight for equality.
This is our time for meditation and prayer and contemplation. Our words this morning are a prayer adapted from the work of UU minister, the Reverend Maureen Kaloran, followed, of course, by a time of silence for our own reflection and prayer. And during that time of silence, if we've lost someone close to us in the last year, everyone is invited to stand in silent witness of that loss. And then we close with our music. In one way or another, each of us was born of a mother. Because we are human, it is likely that our relationship with that mother is, was, or will someday be challenging. From the diversity of our lives, from the similarity of our hearts, let us pray. For all who never knew their mothers, and all who chose or were compelled to let their children drift away, we ask a blessing on this day. For all who longed to hold their newborn in the arms of love, and all who faced a pregnancy with fear, we ask a blessing on this day. For all who struggle with the pain of their beloved mother's increasing confusion, for all who feel a muddle growing in their own heads and seek to keep it from their parent or their child, we ask a blessing on this day. For all whose mothers never grew up, and all whose mothers never learned to play, we ask a blessing on this day. For all who missed the chance to say, I love you, and for all who missed the mother they said it to, and for all who long to say it now but find ourselves afraid or unable, we ask a blessing on this day. For all who carry ancient wounds, infertility, pregnancy loss, abuse, misunderstanding, anger, grief, we ask a blessing on this day. And for all who struggle on Mother's Day with regret, we ask a blessing on this day. Amen. This is my first Mother's Day without my mother. Being alive and in this world. Please don't say later she's with you. It's just not my experience. She is certainly in my heart and in my mind a lot. So, it's especially poignant, of course, this year. Everybody who's been where I am now, I'm sure remembers the ways this was maybe the same or different for you, but it's always something. And it's funny because usually I'm kind of in tune with what I think will be hard or easy to say, but when I typed out those words a few days, well, actually, those words I typed out yesterday, I thought, yeah, that'll be pretty straightforward. The last good conversation I remember with her, the last real exchange that we had where she was still taking things in and engaging in ideas, and she was a philosophy major in college, so this was central to who she was when my husband Tim and I were in upstate New York at the end of last September, and we stayed in the very small and quaint town of Seneca Falls, which we learned was the inspiration and this is apparently true for the town of Bedford Falls in the Christmas classic, It's a Wonderful Life. The only thing I had already known about Seneca Falls prior to going was that back in the day they hosted this famous conference where a bunch of early women's suffrage leaders gathered for a thing that, you know, started the whole women's rights thing going. That was mostly what I had left in my head about that. Near our cute old-timey hotel, we noticed an old rehabbed brick building a short block away, and we decided to walk over and explore it, and what a revelation that turned into. And that was the beginning of everything that I called my mother about that weekend to talk about with her. That old brick building turned out to be part of the Seneca Falls Women's Rights National Historical Park, established in 1980. And it is the building where the convention happened back on July 19th and 20th of 1848 in what was then the Wesleyan Chapel. The Wesleyan Chapel was an interracial chapel built by abolitionists. Am I already telling you stuff you didn't know? I hope so. And this congregation and leadership were radically mixed for those days, even for now. Black and white, wealthy and poor, all together, what church is supposed to be. Used as they were to taking radical stances, they were the only sizable institution in Elizabeth Cady Stanton's town that would host such a drastic gathering as, and I quote the original language, a convention to discuss the social, civil, and religious condition and rights of women, unquote. And it had to be near Elizabeth Cady Stanton because she was the most central individual in pulling this remarkable event together. She was heavily aided by a number of female Quaker leaders in the area. Elizabeth Cady Stanton was not a Quaker. She was a free thinker and an agnostic. In case you're wondering, no, there were no Unitarian or Universalist churches near her back then. But otherwise, anyway, she was aided by a number of wonderful women Quaker leaders and a friend mentor, one of them, Lucretia Mott, who was also a Quaker, and already a famous public speaker, and she was visiting in the area. Much of this had grown out of the abolitionism movement, which involved many women, and was one of the first movements in America to allow women to participate in any way. In 1840, Lucretia Mott and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, along with their husbands and about a dozen or so other Americans, had traveled to London, England for the world's first anti-slavery convention. Elizabeth was a smart, educated, upper-middle-class woman, white, with strong ties to the abolitionism movement, which is how she had met her husband Henry, who was a lawyer and an anti-slavery politician. And the two of them had chosen to make this anti-slavery convention their honeymoon trip. It tells you so much about them, doesn't it? Though they did end up with 7 children. At the London Convention, women were allowed to listen from the upper balcony. This is, you know, the movement that allows women to participate, right? They were allowed to listen from the upper balcony behind a curtain, but not be seen or go down on the floor to or speak or vote. It was out of their London abolitionist movement work and experiences, which included Elizabeth hearing Lucretia speak at a local Unitarian chapel, that Elizabeth and Lucretia became friends and agreed that they wanted to stay in touch and work together to address women's rights. In 1847, the Stantons moved from Boston to Seneca Falls, and in the summer of 1848, so they were not letting grass grow, Lucretia and her husband James Mott visited central and western New York. They visited the Cattaraugus Reservation of the Seneca Nation within the Iroquois Confederacy because in that group, women were strongly positioned and respected. And so it was part of an investigatory tour that the Motts were making. They also visited with some people who had been formerly enslaved and were then living in Ontario, Canada. And on July 9th, a group of 5 women, including Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia Mott, met for tea in Waterloo, New York. And they then decided to hold a women's rights convention basically immediately. while the Motts were still in the area visiting. They were located then in Philadelphia. And they announced their decision, right? They met on the 9th. They announced their decision on the 11th to be held a week later on July 19th and 20th. The 19th would be programs for women only. Men would also be welcome on the 20th in order to hear Lucretia Mott and others speak. 1 week. I remember how stunned I was this past January when we answered the call to Minnesota and learned that they had only conceived of that call and all the planning they'd done since to make that visit possible a bare week before. In that week, they had organized a national call answered by 600 clergy from all over the country, and I thought that was an astonishing accomplishment. I really did. And I was reminded then of the Seneca Falls Conference, which basically did the same thing with about half the turnout in the same time frame, but without internet, email, cell phones, cars, planes. I honestly don't know how they pulled it off. On July 16th, they planned the convention, including resolutions that would be presented for approval. And Elizabeth McClintock, who was one of the Quaker women helping to lead the effort, reached out to Frederick Douglass, who was then working with the Western New York Anti-Slavery Society, and asked him to attend, and he gladly accepted, which then made him the only black man to participate in the convention. Though this was how he came to attend, he credited Elizabeth Cady Stanton with really converting him to the cause of women's rights during a memorable walk that they took one day. In the end, 300 people came, including 40 men. 100 people signed their names to the Declaration of Sentiments that you heard the beginning of earlier today. 68 women, 32 men. Lucretia Mott was the first to sign. Elizabeth Cady Stanton was the fourth to sign. Frederick Douglass was the fourth man to sign. The result of their work was this Declaration of Sentiments, which, as you probably noticed in this 250th anniversary year, was a feminist revision that they crafted from the 1776 Declaration of Independence. It's tracks super closely. They just kept putting and women and women and kind of pointing out where the stuff that they put in there originally didn't hold for women and being a little more explicit about it. That's basically the difference. Elizabeth Cady Stanton was the leader driving its creation, which included, after the section that Roxanne read earlier today, it went straight into sort of bullets that described women's position in male-dominated America. And I have to say, I was so impressed, because when I got here, Roxanne was like, I've been to the Seneca Falls Museum and I would like to go there again. And I said, oh, that's wonderful. And she's like, yes, I love this and that. And I know this declaration. I believe after this section comes the iterated bullet points of the... So if anybody has any questions, I'm telling you everything I know. Go to Roxanne later for any more you need. But there's these bullet points about women's position in male-dominated America, and some of them are worded so powerfully that even now they command our attention and even maybe astonishment, certainly my own. Here's a few of them. Right, men, right? A big male thing. Men, please don't be offended. I don't usually talk about feminism. I am not a man-hating feminist. I am a man-loving feminist. My dad, my grandpa, so many awesome men in UU congregations. I'm not endorsing this painting with a broad brush, but I am saying it's important for us to know our feminist history. Is that okay? Okay. So, he has not ever permitted her to exercise her inalienable right to elective franchise. The issue of voting, by the way, was the hot-button issue. A lot of the people, a lot of the debate, they were like, we're fine with everything except the vote. The vote is too much. You're going too far now. You're going off, swinging for the fences. Let's dial that one back. But Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia Mott fought. Actually, Lucretia was on the other side. She was saying that Elizabeth Cady Stanton was going too far with the vote also. She said something about it, including the word "thee." "Thee" is blah, 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 pushing us off a cliff, basically. But it stayed because Stanton fought so hard for it. He has not ever permitted her to exercise her inalienable right to elective franchise. This next one killed me when I first read it. He has made her, if married, in the eyes of the law, civilly dead. And it's true. Once a woman got married in that day, she had nothing. No property of her own, no rights of her own, no independence of her own. Civilly dead, once married. He has taken from her all right and property, even to the wages she earns. He has made her morally an irresponsible being, as she can commit many crimes with impunity, provided they be done in the presence of her husband. In the covenant of marriage, she is compelled to promise obedience to her husband, he becoming, in all intents and purposes, her master. The law giving him power to deprive her of liberty and to administer chastisement. After depriving her of all rights as a married woman, if single and the owner of property, right? So if she doesn't get married, if she's single and the owner of property, he has taxed her to support a government which recognizes her only when her property can be made profitable to it. He has monopolized nearly all the profitable employments, and from those she is permitted to follow, she receives but scanty remuneration. He closes against her all the avenues to wealth and distinction, which he considers most honorable to himself. As a teacher of theology, medicine, or law, she is not known. He has created a false public sentiment by giving to the world a different code of morals for men and women, by which moral delinquencies which exclude women from society are not only tolerated but deemed of little account in men. So much more, no time. Last paragraph. Now, in view of this entire disenfranchisement of one half of the people of this country, their social and religious degradation, in view of the unjust laws above mentioned, and because women do feel themselves aggrieved, oppressed, and fraudulently deprived of their most sacred rights, we insist that they have immediate admission to all the rights and privileges which belong to them as citizens of these United States. In entering upon the great work before us, we anticipate no small amount of misconception, misrepresentation, and ridicule. But we shall use every instrumentality within our power to effect our object. In the end, it would be many more decades, well over a century, before most of the injustices they named would even begin to be changed. Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Frederick Douglass would become close friends who worked together for both causes, abolition of slavery and women's rights, and then were sometimes divided by those causes and the biases they themselves both still struggled with, despite their best efforts and their own enlightenment. There's so much more to say about this than one sermon can encompass. These mothers and fathers of the women's movement in America. My mother was able to be the powerful leader and personality she was because of women like Elizabeth and Lucretia. She was the first generation, my mom. She was the first generation born in this country, and yet she was an inheritor of those women, those American women generations before. The many who signed their names on July 20th, 1848, and the many who attended but refrained from signing their names because it was too risky back then to come out for women's personhood and dignity and human rights. If, like me, you knew just a little about Seneca Falls before this, from history classes years or even decades ago, then let me tell you also that on the cover of your order of service is a photo that my husband Tim took in Seneca Falls. And it shows a mural which covers an entire building wall right downtown in Seneca Falls. And it shows, as you can see, a Seneca Falls suffragette on the left passing a flame to a modern young woman who shares her features, her descendant, in spirit at least, and likely in family. On the insert of your order of service is a photo that I took inside the Wesleyan Chapel that I talked about seeing at the beginning of our visit. This photo was taken inside Wesleyan Chapel, which is set up as a museum now to the conference. And at the very front, when you come in, is this life-size statue of Elizabeth Cady Stanton holding out her hand in welcome as you enter the space. Having already seen and loved the mural image that you can't miss in downtown Seneca Falls, into her bronze hand I put my own, as you can see, in gratitude for the freedom to vote and to exist as my own person and to preach and to serve a church and to marry or not. And when finally marrying, to not obey my husband. Elizabeth Cady Stanton and her husband took that out of their vows. But Tim and I didn't even discuss it. It was unnecessary because of, in part, of what they did. Right? There are people in the world now, this is not just about living in the 21st century. There are women we know who cannot drive, who must obey, for whom so much of this is still true. So this is not so simple as the past, the present, and the future. The freedom, and I had never thought of this before that visit, to be not just morally accountable, but legally responsible, whether I am in my husband's presence or not. I had never thought of that. So much do we owe to those of the first wave who manifested themselves at Seneca Falls. They were not perfect. No mother is. But they were giants. And the echoes of those powerful foremothers' footfalls echo still in our living. And I felt upon reflection that with this sermon, I was also extending a hand out from Seneca Falls to everyone here, from all of that heritage, to all of us here, so that we may know it better and hold it as best we may as we go forward. So happy Mother's Day. Amen. Our hymn, we are number 212. We are dancing Sarah's Circle in the gray hymnal. don't want to make us late for brunch appointments, I'm going to trust you to be as generous as you possibly can with this morning's Mother's Day offering and not belabor it. I'm trusting you. I'm trusting you. Thank you so much for all that you give and all that you do and all that you are.
And before we sing, I want to give a really special thank you to two choir members who you're going to hear in a minute, Liza Davis and Chris Newtonboom. As you heard, it's their last Sunday here with us before they move to Minnesota, so we will miss them so much and all their contributions to the church and especially the music program, and wish them all the best in their move. Thank you both.
I close my eyes and I can see a world that's waiting up for me, that I call my own. Through the dark, through the door, through where no one's been before, but it feels like home. They can say it all sounds crazy. They can say I've lost my mind. I don't care, so call me crazy. We can live in a world that we design. 'Cause every night I lie in bed, and brightest colors fill my head. A million dreams are keeping me awake. I think of what the world could be, a vision of the one I see. A million dreams is all it's gonna take. Oh, a million dreams for the world we're gonna make.
There's a house we can build. Every room inside is filled. If things from far away.
Special things I compile, each one there to make you smile on a rainy day. They can say it all sounds crazy. They can say we've lost our minds. I don't care if they call us crazy. Run away to a world that we design. Every night I lie in bed, the brightest colors fill my head. A million dreams are keeping me awake. I think of what the world could be, a vision of the one I see. A million dreams is all it's gonna take. A million dreams for the world we're gonna make.
However big, however small, let me be part of it all. Share your dreams with me. You may be right, you may be wrong, but say that you'll bring me along to the world you see.
To the world I close my eyes to see. I close my eyes to see. 'Cause
Two invitations among the many ways we have to practice our faith. The World Affairs Committee invites everyone to a parish supper on Saturday, May 16th from 5:30 to 8:30. This event is going to feature Julia Seawright from the Sankofa Initiative in Providence, whose goal, as you may already well know, is to provide opportunities for immigrants to become economically independent. They have 3 programs to that end: the Wednesday World Market in Providence, a community kitchen to train people in commercial food preparation, and community gardens. And more information about Sankofa can be found in last week's newsletter, and they will be the recipients of next week's community collection on Sunday morning. You can sign up for the potluck after worship at the World Affairs Committee's table in the atrium, or through, of course, the link in the first 2 times our newsletter. And the next phases of our strategic plan capital projects are beginning. We are in the process of selecting an architect for our auditorium and meeting house accessibility projects, and the Oregon team is working on finding the perfect instrument for our building. On that note, if you know of anyone who is downsizing or closing a church or moving their church and needs to find a new home for their organ, please let us know. Occasionally, an instrument just isn't right for its current home and needs a new place to live. This happens with organs more often than you might expect. So keep an ear out and contact Nancy in the office if you hear of anything that might help. You could be the one who discovers our next organ. Yeah, this is where someone's going to say in a Rhode Island accent, "I know a guy." Our closing words are excerpted from the writing of one of my favorite UU ministers, someone who was a teacher, an instructor, and is now a dear friend to me, the Reverend Jane Jepka. Motherhood in my family is not always the most important job in the world. Some of us are actually good at it. Some of us shuffle along and do our best. Some of us are better off in other professions, and we try to face that. Mother's Day is no time to romanticize parenthood. Parenting is a down-to-earth process, if there ever was one. So this Mother's Day, let's humanize Mom. Thank her for doing what she could, given all the dirty socks. Thank her for loving you as well as she was able in spite of your 3 years in junior high. And let her thank you for the privilege of being your mother. Can we join in the words for extinguishing our chalice? We carry the flame of peace and love and hope until we meet again.
Welcome to the end of being alone inside your mind. You're tethered to another and you're worried all the time. You always knew the melody, but you never heard it rhyme. She's fair and she is quiet, Lord. She doesn't look like me. She made me love the morning. She's a holiday at sea. The New York streets are as busy as they always used to be. But I am the mother of Evangeline. The first things that she took from me were selfishness and sleep. She broke 1,000 heirlooms that I was never meant to keep. She filled my life with color, canceled plans, and trashed my car. but none of that was ever who we are. Outside of my windows are the mountains and the snow, and I'll hold you while you're sleeping, and I'll wish that I could go. All my rowdy friends are out accomplishing their dreams, but I am the mother of Evangeline. And they've still got their morning papers and their coffee and their time. They still enjoy their evenings with the skeptics and their wine. Oh, but all the wonders I have seen I will see a second time, from inside of the ages through your eyes. You are not an accident where no one thought it through. The world has stood against us, made us mean to fight for you. And when we chose your name, we knew you'd fight the power too. You're nothing short of magical and beautiful to me. I'll never hit the big time without you. So they can keep their treasure and their ties to the machine, 'cause I am the mother of Evangeline. They can keep their treasure and their ties to the machine, 'cause I am the mother of Evangeline.